Okay. Let's talk about genre and what we can learn from it. If you know your genre and his or her rules, then you know your stories in and out.
Oh my god! Wow!
There are many different kinds of definitions for genre, but we will only focus on the three main givers: Aristotle, Snyder, and McKee. Let's start with Aristotle. Aristotle offers 5 general categories: epic poetry, tragedy, dithyrambic poetry, just comedy, and music. All of these 5 genres share the characteristics of imitation, and each uses different means to imitate reality. Whereby, however, they are only categorized in 3 distinct genres: the epic, tragedy, and comedy. The other 2 are just a subgenre. Aristotle thinks that, or meant, because he's dead.
Oh really?
The object that art seeks, your storytelling, is to imitate a person in action. You could say there are 3 ways to portray people: as better than they are in reality, worser, or as he actually is. Not bad, not good, just human. Now let's get back to the genre. Tragedy represents people better than they are in reality. Comedy, worse. Why worse? Well, you will see. Just to get back to poetry part again. Poetry springs from 2 deep human instincts, you could say. The instinct for imitation and the instinct for harmony and rhyme. You know, Aristotle is on poetics, and well, poetic matter is a thing. A-B-B-A-B-B-R. Then poetry splits into 2 different directions. It can be called poetry about noble and good characters, and poetry about more imperfect characters. In this way, the distinction between tragedy and comedy emerges. Tragedy represents people better than they are in reality, and comedy worse. A comedy can be described as an imitation of something imperfect or ugly that does not communicate or create pain. Okay, that would be tragedy and comedy. Now we come to the an epic poem, or simply an epic, because you know, is a long narrative poem, typically about extraordinary deeds of exceptional characters or personalities who, in dealing with gods or other superhumans, gave shape to the mortal universe in some kind of form, often with the voices of a narrator and characters. And that is the main point of an epic poem. It's told in a narrative way. So narrative poetry is a form of poetry that tells a story. Poetry, you know. So tragedy is a genre of drama that deals with human suffering, and especially with the terrible or sad events that befall a main character. Now, that was all from Aristotle.
Alright, who's next?
Like Snyder said that there are 10 types of movies. And once you know what genre you belong to, learn the rules and figure out what's essential. These categories are all you need to know to figure out the mechanism of movie plots and books. The 10 types of movies are The Monster in the House. Examples: Alien, The Exorcist, Jaws. The rules are quite simple. The house must be a confined space. For example, a beach resort, a spaceship, futuristic Disneyland, family units, a trailer park, horror house. I know I like my horror houses. The second rule will be a sin must be committed. Usually greed or whatever, money-wise or carnal. Let's get on to the Golden Fleece. These are movies like Star Wars, The Wizard of Oz, Planes, Back to the Future, and any kind of heist movie. Because a hero sets out to find one thing, for example a treasure, but ends up discovering the most important thing, something else, himself. So the milestone of the Golden Fleece are the people and the events that our hero and heroes encounter along the way. Since this is an episodic kind of movie, it doesn't seem to be cohesive, but it should be. It must be. The theme of any film in the Golden Fleece genre is inner growth. How events affect our hero is, in fact, the plot. That's the only way we as the audience know that they are growing, that the story is progressing. It's not the number of milestones that the hero encounters, it's all about the way the hero changes along the way. It's not the event, but what the hero learns about himself from those events that make the story work. For example, all heist movies are also in the genre because any quest, mission or treasure in the castle, for example if the castle is even in the sky, is to be tackled by an individual or group falls into this Golden Fleece category and is subject to the same rules. Very often the mission comes secondary the longer we watch the movie or read it. It's all about the personal discovery or the inner growth. Okay, now let's get on to the next one. Out of the bottle movies like Bruce Almighty, Love Potion, Freaky Friday, Flubber. So I wish I had insert. The roots of Out of the Bottles are quite simple. It's a wish fulfillment story.
Tell me what you wished for.
So the hero must be quite disappointed, oppressed by all around him, so that we the audience are wishing him a little bit of happiness. Just a little bit. Now he gets what he wishes for. But yet he must realize, because we the audience don't like just an underdog that has all the money in the world now, that is quite boring. So now the hero must learn that this magic, this wish, is everything there is to it, for him, to it, to all. At the end of the Out of the Bottle, there must be a lesson in it, a good moral. Next one would be the guy with the problem. I don't have a problem, you have. It's all about the ordinary guy finds himself in extraordinary circumstances. This is, for example, Die Hard, Titanic, or Schindler's List, if we go back to the logline examples. There are two very simple parts in this whole the guy with the problem genre. An average he, she, it, whatever you like, is like us. Average, you could say. Okay. And you have your average he, she, it, and there is a problem. Something that this average person has to overcome. It's quite hard. You need to have a bad guy, and when you make a bad guy in that kind of genre, make him as bad as humanly possible. Bad. Just bad. Because the bigger the problem is, or the worse the guy is, the bad guy, or the bad whatever, or the bigger the problem, the better chances the protagonist has to overcome it. Okay, that would be the guy with the problem. Let's get on to rite of passage. These are any stories about life changes. Life change from ordinary people to days of wine and roses. Fall into these categories. So what does it mean? Well, these are stories of pain and anguish, but they usually start from an outside force. Life, because life happens. So of course it's all about the choices we have made or the characters have made, but the monster attacking us is often invincible. Awake, or we don't know how to handle the situation simply because we don't know what this monster is, or what we fear, or what we need to overcome. And the whole story is about the hero recognizing slowly these monsters. Okay, so the story is all about the hero slowly realizing what or who that monster is. The endpoint of all the rite of passage stories are the acceptance of our own humanity. And the moral of the stories are always, that's life. Okay, now let's get on to buddy love.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
For example, Rain Man, Dumb and Dumber, cop buddy movies. To be honest, every love story ever made. The secret of a good buddy movie is, in reality, it's actually a love story. In the beginning, the buddies hate each other, but then they have to go on an adventure together that leads to the realization that they need each other. They're essentially incomplete a little bit, incomplete halves. Incomplete, but together they add each other. Okay, no. They're essentially just half parts of cakes, but together they're a whole cake. I like cakes and my horror houses. Get me a cake in the horror house. And ultimately, the oldest lost moment every good story has is the moment that occurs when each of the protagonists break up or have an argument, and it's goodbye. I will never see you again. It's just about two people who can't stand the fact that they can't live as well without the other. Both of them have to give up their ego to win in the situation that they need the other. In the example of Rain Man, you could say that Tom Cruise changes while Dustin Hoffman is the sidekick that acts as the catalyst for that change. Next one, whodunit. Movies like Chinatown, JFK, The Insider, and so on. The who is never as interesting as the why did it happen. Unlike the Golden Fleece, the whodunit is not about the hero changing, but about the audience learning something about human nature that they would not have thought possible before the crime and the case began. The triumphed fool. Forrest Gump, Dave, The Jerk, Amadeus, as all the works, for example, for Chaplin, Keaton, or Lloyd. Who was that guy? Outwardly, he's just a village simpleton idiot. Yeah! But on close inspections, he turns out to be the wisest among them all. The principles of the triumphed fool is that you have the underdog fool against the bigger, more powerful and often established villain, you could say. The fool puts a stop to those whose society sees as the winners in life, gives us all hope, and pokes fun at the structure we take so seriously in our society or in our daily lives. It's quite simple. An underdog who is seemingly so simple and understands so little about life that everyone around him diminishes his chances of success. And often in that kind of stories, the fool has an accomplice, an insider who plays along with the hoax and can't believe the fool is getting away with his ruse. For example, Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. The next one would be institutionalized. This genre is all about groups: Animal House, One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Godfather.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Institutionalized tells stories about groups, institutions, and families. These stories are special because they both honor the institution and show the problems that arise when you lose your identity to it. These films are about the pros and cons of choosing the group over oneself. So all these stories in this category boil down to one question: who is crazier, me or them? Yes, that would be it. The next one would be superheroes. Superman, Batman, Dracula, Frankenstein, Gladiator, A Beautiful Mind.
Did it, you guys? We're totally heroes.
It's the opposite of a guy with a problem. An extraordinary person finds himself in an ordinary world. The superhero is born into a world he did not create and must contend with those who are envious of his unique perspective and superior intellect. And our identification with that hero must come from the plight of the misunderstood. We can sympathize with someone that is misunderstood in his own world. So he inspires our greatest fantasies about our potential while tempering those fantasies with a dose of reality. So that would be all from Safety Cat. Now let's get on to McKee, because he didn't quite summarize genre in itself, but he gave examples what to do. Okay. McKee.
Okay.
Sorry. McKee suggests that there is no clear definition of genre, because sometimes to be honest, always, it comes down to common elements like structure and values of the story. Ultimately, moviegoers and readers are the true genre experts. The moviegoers' knowledge of the present genre they are watching is a crucial challenge to all the writers out there. Not only does the writer need to meet the expectations of the audience, he must also lead the expectations to new unexpected moments or risk boring them. So the problem with moviegoers and know-it-all people and genre lovers is that they already have expectations of your story, and a genre is not quite a stereotype, but in some way, because every genre has its own archetypes. So what is an archetype, you may ask? Well, it's a typical ideal or classic example of something. For example, Dracula. That's a classic. So every genre has its own archetypes and audiences, come with the knowledge and expectations, so there are limits to what is possible in a story. In other words, each genre has its own conventions, its own rules or cage. Some of these chains can be vague and malleable, while others are rigid and inflexible, as with, for example, crime films. They always have a bad guy or not. Every genre has its recognizable form. So let him know in the first few minutes, if we're talking about movies, in the first 20 minutes or so, what kind of movie you're watching, because you don't want to be disappointed at the beginning when you expected a fantasy but it's a crime. And of course you can swift the genre in the middle, but then the people will be disappointed because they expected a good old fantasy story and not a crime cause. Genre conventions are a set of creative constraints. So creative limitations has to do with discipline. It's about setting rules and boundaries to let our creativity solve problems. And mastering a genre requires creative boundaries. At its best, it's about developing innovative variations on conventions that are already there. So of course you can also combine many different genres and create something unique, such as, musical horror stories, Rock Horror Picture Show.
Well, how about that?
So a genre evolves and moves with the time. Inflexible genres simply disappear. And McKee writes a few examples. For example, the West from the 60s.
What do you mean?
The Western evolved from morality plays that unintentionally espoused semi-fascist values to social dramas that were critical of racism and violence. The psychodrama. This genre evolved from the psychological drama to the psychological thriller. The psychological thriller evolved from a story about police officers tracking down a mentally disturbed criminal, usually a serial killer, for example 7.
What's in the f***ing box?
To the point where the cop or detective protagonist also suffers from mental instability, The psychological thriller continued to evolve to the point where the mentally unstable person was someone close to the family, whether a family member or a respected acquaintance. What's that sentence? Then we go on to the love story. In this genre, there is the convention of blocking characters, or the force opposed to the power of love, with the opposing force that prevents the two protagonists from getting together. For example, Romeo and Juliet, it was the parents. As the love stories evolves, so does the forces opposing the love. Be it culture, opposing values, beliefs, racism, sexual identity, and even death. Some films take a less optimistic attitude toward love and romance, often with a sad ending. Oh, yes. The genre was then transformed into a story of longing, in which the lovers long to get together. And the meeting is delayed until its climax. So the lesson should be this about genre. Social attitude changes. The writer should look out for cultural changes or maybe a lot of movements or risks. Writing, it's about social attitude changes. You should look out and hear about what the people are thinking, what movements there are, because that's what's moving them at the moment. Of course, genre is an ever-evolving kind of form. Okay, what are we doing with the genre itself? Well, writers tend, as great writers, great writers tend to focus on one idea, one single idea and one theme. A writer should ideally work in the genre she loves. Just write what you like and what you love. Don't write something because intellectual friends think it's socially important or not. Just don't write something you think will be praised in magazines or posts or blogs or videos. Be honest in your choice of genre, because for all the reasons you want to write, the only thing that drives us over time is the love to the work itself. Of course you can write something for a commission or not, but you still need to write the things that you love to keep going. Well, that would be all from McKee. After that, what do we do with this information? How can we learn to write in our own genre? Well, take one of your favorite movies, for example Coraline, Spider-Man, or whatever movie you like, and try to get the script to it. From Script, Slug, or any other site, or then just Google it and find the script and just read the script while you're watching the movie.
We give our thanks and ask to bless our mother's golden chicken breast.
You get a better understanding initially how the whole movie works and what do's and don'ts. Or try reading and watching a lot of movies in the same genre. And maybe try to find out what do you like about the genre most. I'm not that crazy about lists, but maybe make a list about what you like about what is your favorite horror theme, what do you like about it. Does it work for you with jump scares, or is it more the tension that is building up in the movie itself? Just try to avoid cliches, try to do something new, but just learn from all the movies that are out there and be inspired by them. I hope this helped in some way, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. You're free to leave a like, of course, and I hope I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Bye.